Give a brief introduction. There's a lot to say about Arlene. But first I wanted to say a little bit about why we're doing this. There are a couple things. I looked up some quotes, and a wise man once said, to know where you're going, you have to know where you came from. So there's a lot of different quotes, people who said that, but I think that's very relevant to this story. Another thing is our son Elliot, right here in front, said, "What are we doing tomorrow, Daddy?" And I said, "Well, we're going to go hear a story." "And what's the story about, Daddy?" I said, "Well, it's about a fight." And he said, "A fight? Oh my gosh." And I said, "It's about a fight for justice." So, and there'll be cookies. So, so that's kind of a little bit about what this is about. The story about Toronto Chinatown is about a fight for justice and rights. And but we're doing this forum a little bit for three things. One is to educate. We want to kind of expose a little bit the historical struggles of other communities around the world. We want to promote activism and advocacy in this fight for justice. We want to have people get involved, and we want to engage young people in this process, and new people. So thank you everybody for coming, family, relatives, and the broader community. I wanted to first also acknowledge the folks here who helped set us up and got this available for us, which is the City of Oakland Public Library, Asian branch staff, who are around, Kong at the front, branch manager Janet, thank you Janet very much, and Anita, who also provided some technical support, and just for opening it up to us and to the broader community. I also want to acknowledge my wife Yvonne for allowing me the time to go here and do this. Can you, hi Yvonne, and our son Elliot and Jordan, who's wisely asleep there. Okay, so so I just want to introduce Arlene, and I kind of promoted this by saying this was about a family friend, but I would it wouldn't do her justice without saying a little bit about Arlene. So if I may. So Arlene was born, raised, and this is the professional side of it. Arlene was born, raised, and educated in Toronto, Canada. After obtaining an undergraduate degree in English and psychology at the University of Toronto, she graduated with a master's degree in library sciences. Her career as a librarian started at the North York Board of Education and ended at the Toronto Public Library, where she spent 30 years in progressively advanced positions. That is quite a feat in this economy right now, to be in one job 30 years, so congratulations. Her writing career was launched in 1997 with The Spirit of the Dragon, the story of Jean Lum, a proud Chinese Canadian. Jean Lum actually is Arlene's mother. This children's book tells the amazing story of her mother, who was the first Chinese Canadian to receive the Order of Canada, the highest civilian honor for her community activism. The Spirit of the Dragon was selected as a choice book by the Canadian Children's Book Centre. Her second book, The Moon Festival, is a Chinese Mid-Autumn Festival, was shortlisted for the Silver Birch Award. Awakening the Dragon Boat Festival, was published in 2004 and as a paperback in 2007, and her fourth publication was released in 2009 as the first book on Canadian dragon boating, entitled Paddles Up, Dragon Boat Racing in Canada. But I would like to say a little bit on the personal side about Arlene, and I had to ask around the family for some words. So as mentioned, Arlene's mother, Jean Lum, was the first Chinese Canadian to be awarded the Order of Canada for Distinguished Community Services. Arlene's parents were very close friends with my grandparents, William Wong and Elizabeth Wong. Both families were instrumental and influential in securing human rights for Chinese immigrants in Canadian society. And Arlene's book goes into more detail how this was accomplished and contains many photos of my grandparents. And during post-reading part, I was told to ask a question, how my grandmother got named Queen Elizabeth. So without further ado, Arlene Chan.
This is the Lung Family Association, and I'm just going to stop here because I want to point out this is the Lung Family Association, which is just across the street from this library, and this is one of the one in Toronto. And that woman standing in the front there is actually Elizabeth Wong, who is Wendell's grandmother, and his grandfather is standing with his back to the to us there. He's standing on a podium, and he's making a speech. And I'm just going to now just read a little bit from my book about this time period of when all these associations became very active. So you had the clan associations, you had family associations, and you also had political organizations, associations. So Mr. Wong, he was known as W.C. Wong. He was very, very active, one of the leading community members in the Chinese community at the time. Very educated man. He graduated from the College of Law at the Sun Yat-sen University in Gwangju. He obtained a master's degree in political science at New York University. So he actually studied in the United States. And his respective thesis was entitled The History of the Housing Problem in New York City. He had intended about graduating and returning to China to work for the Kuomintang political party, and that was interrupted with the outbreak of the Sino-Japanese War in 1937. He moved to Toronto, where he became the president of the Chinese Nationalist League of Canada, as well as an overseas member of the parliament in China. In 1938, he married Elizabeth Situ at the Knox Presbyterian Church. They were likely the first or among the first Chinese couples to be married in a Western church. Traditionally, weddings were held in Chinese halls in Chinatown. Although they first lived on Centre Street in Chinatown, they later moved to Vancouver, from where W.C. Wong returned to China to help the Nationalist Party. In the last years of the exclusionary period, the Wongs moved back to Toronto, driven away by the harsh discrimination in Vancouver. They purchased a three-story home on St. George Street for $6,000 to house their growing family. And in 1959, W.C. Wong succeeded E.C. Mark as the president of the Chinese Community Centre of Ontario. Now, Mr. Wong is mentioned, very, very good that you clapped, about your great-grandfather. He was a very important man. Yeah. So, and I just wanted to read a bit about Elizabeth Wong, too. There were so few women in Chinatown at that time, and I know my mother, when she was born in British Columbia, the province, but she moved to Toronto when she was 16 years old. And when she arrived in Toronto, she remembered that there were only about a dozen Chinese families because there were so few women. The ratio of men to women was astounding. So I talk about the few women who were there at the time, and one of those women was Elizabeth Wong, who was Mrs. W.C. Wong, and would be Wendell's grandmother. She was born in 1911, and she emigrated from Guangdong province as a university student and continued her studies in sociology at the University of Toronto. Her strong belief of education and careers for women made her a pioneer in many areas. After her marriage in 1938 to W.C. Wong at the Knox Presbyterian Church, she enrolled in sociology at the University of Toronto, but abandoned her studies to raise her 4 children. In 1958, she became the first female Chinese-Canadian real estate broker in Toronto. She later used her professional expertise to establish in 1970 the site of the city's first Chinese retirement residence, the Monshong Home for the Aged, to which she donated her real estate commission. Her family were among the first Chinese Canadians to purchase a home outside of Chinatown, as well as a cottage in northern Ontario in 1957. So what I'm going to do now is just pause, because Marilyn might want to add a few